So if you look at the Financial Times in the 80s, they say, secular Turkey finds refuge in Islamic finance. When the Western banks in 94 were shunning secular Turkey, suddenly Islamic finance was the source of cross-border finance. Pakistan importing rice, exporting wheat, industrial goods, Egypt's industrial infrastructure were all being done through financing contracts. And when you looked at the banking league tables, suddenly the Islamic institutions were the biggest providers of cross-border lines in a belt of countries called the IDB member countries. This was a very important development. And another thing which was happening was that the industry itself was getting into a self-regulatory mode. In order to have a dialogue, it created associations. The first association created was the Association of Islamic Banks. But then they created an accounting and auditing organization for Islamic financial institutions, which was interacting with IAS, with BIS. Then they created another body called IFSB, Islamic Financial Services Board, which was interacting with central banks. Now, these self-regulatory industry bodies were entering into a dialogue with established institutions. And this was creating a momentum to give Islamic finance a space on the decision-making panels within those countries. And there was a dialogue going on. And when countries like UK took this decision, it was a big successful decision. Now, when we look at the journey, there was the first fork, ideal or real. Wait for the ideal framework, the founders went, let's start it. There was another fork on the road, and I believe it was a very important fork. When they decided to go into the banking mode and wait for the framework to happen, they had another choice. The choice was, shall we go for an asset management business model or the banking business model? Now, the banking business model was the established model in all across the Islamic world, whether it was the British Bank of the Middle East or the Citicorp or the Standard Chartered or ANZ, they were all banks. So the Islamic banking and finance, Islamic finance would have fitted ideally into an asset management mode. But the founders decided at that time that we will go for the banking mode and we will live with a Sharia compliant form of financing rather than a Sharia based financing, because the public has more confidence in banks. The public has less confidence in asset management institutions. So this, to me, was a very defining choice, because the industry is making choices, and the choices is creating a structure around it, based on which the industry will be making more and more compromises in the future.